Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So now that we're doing the J world and we're seeing how purified you can get once you deal with your predisposed issues, and now it's just fluctuating with the environment, how does alcohol affect a purified body? Okay, how does alcohol affect a purified body? So I did an experiment on myself and I tested yesterday. And we didn't even think about Cinco de Mayo because that wasn't really, my husband and I don't celebrate the holidays that are out there. But it just so happens that he was over there in Dover delivering something or picking something up, and he noticed a Mexican restaurant over there in Dover, Ohio. And so he was saying, hey, what do you think about going out to dinner and having some Mexican food? And of course, it's like a date night. I was like, hell yeah. And again, we were not thinking about Cinco de Mayo. Okay, so we went around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon to go out to eat because he came home a little bit early. And so I'm like, you know what? It's been a while since I've had a bit of alcohol. I want to test out and see how the alcohol is going to affect me and how fast will I get a little drunk. And so the waiter brought me this huge, I'm sweating right now, brought me this huge big glass of mango margarita with the sugar on the side, on the rim, and the little lime. And of course, there's a bunch of chips and salsa and even some queso cheese. And I started drinking it, and I started feeling the effects like right away. And I'd be drinking like a bunch, right? And then eating the chips and salsa and the queso cheese. And then finally our meal came. And I was eating my meal, which is the carne asada, an Angus steak with beans and rice and pico de gallo, which is like a tomato type of salad with onions and cilantro, and 2 tortillas. But I kept drinking the alcohol, and even the food was not soaking up the alcohol. It was like I kept getting drunker and drunker. I'm like, okay, you know what? There was like maybe about a little less half an inch dent that I made into that drink. And I'm like, after I ate my food and like completely stuffed it, like was eating my food as if there was no tomorrow. Like I was developing little demons that were hungry, and I was feeding those demons as I was developing them with the alcohol. And I'm like, Jason, do you think I should drink the rest of this? Because I was getting drunker and drunker. And he's like, I'm not picking you up off the floor. He was telling me, I'm not, if you fall down, if you do whatever, I'm not picking your ass up. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to. So I just pushed it away, and it was fine. And I was okay during the ride home. And I think I took a nap when I came home. And that was about it. I did feel a little bit of a slight headache, but nothing crazy. But while we were sitting in the booth eating our food and me drinking that, I felt my immune system trigger, and I was sweating almost immediately right after drinking that alcohol. So I knew that my immune system was triggering, and it was going through the process and releasing those demons. And so now you're seeing like me the day after drinking a tiny bit of alcohol. I couldn't drink the whole drink. If I were to drink that whole mango margarita, and he probably made it strong because it was Cinco de Mayo, I probably would have been passed out, completely blitzed off of one drink. And so, yeah, I kind of knew that the alcohol was going to affect me that quickly, but I wanted to see how quick it was going to be, and then what would my behavior be? And I was laughing, and I'm like, okay, this is not really what I want to do. This is not, no. And so, yeah, no alcohol for me ever, but I wanted to see how it would react. So there you go. And then, yeah, I was listening to something on the on YouTube about cannabis legal in Thailand. And yeah. So the whole world's going to be under the influence of cannabis or alcohol and pharmaceuticals, because the world's going to be under the influence, because the way these frequencies are going, they are bringing up demons. Like, I feel like the fertility goddess right now, even though I'm not like what you'd say obese, I would say that I could feel that, well, I feel the extra like cells being developed in my body because of the heat. Heat is rising. So with heat and moisture and bacteria, that's when you get replication, reproduction. Doesn't mean I'm going to get pregnant. Doesn't mean that I have a diagnosable condition like infection. It just means that I will carry more of the proteins that have replicated, and then also my lymphatic system, my immune system will open up and release the demons, and won't allow me to get a diagnosable condition or be possessed by some kind of foreign entity. And so that, that that's now kind of the world that I live in with this heat. And I feel the heat at night. I feel the heat during the day. I feel the heat all different times. And I know, Audrey, you feel the heat too, because your body's also replicating proteins. And then you have to release those demons, because if you don't, either it's extreme obesity or it's a diagnosable condition. And that's when people have an issue, and then they try to cure themselves. They try to stop the release process. They don't understand pain. Okay. And that's essentially, like, I was thinking about like the Facebook Reels, like I did last night. I learned how to do Facebook Reels. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that because there's so many different types of Facebook Reels, but I wanted to develop a monologue that was really short, to the point, that paraphrased and encapsulated my hour-long videos into something that was easy for people to grasp and at least tease their brain into considering another thought process. And so now I think that's where I'm going to graduate towards, is figuring out, with all these long videos that I'm doing, how do you then get to the point very quickly in probably maybe like 2 or 3 or 5 minutes? Because before you can do something like a quick monologue that gets to the point very quickly and outlines each point, you got to do the work. You got to spend the hours, like, going through all the details, understanding every side of the issue. So that way, when people are watching from all sides of the earth, you are answering the questions before they're even asked, because you're addressing the points based upon someone's perspective. And you have to know, your audience. My audience is the fucking world. And so how do you bring the world's perspective into a monologue? Because then when you listen to yourself and you're like, oh shit, what happens if they have, like, if I said, okay, pain is this and this and this, and you should deal with pain. And then someone's like, well, what happens if someone's hitting me? I should deal with pain like that. Okay. So then you realize, how do you explain pain? And that's where I'm going to next. It's like, if I'm going to do a monologue about pain on a Facebook Reel with pretty music in the background, I got to be able to address every single potential pitfall issue, someone taking something literally, and make sure they don't take it literally. Almost like as if you are knowing how people are going to take your information and spin it and turn it into something like Jillian's advocating people like do violence against each other. And I'm not saying that, but you know how people will do things, they'll spin shit. And so then you have to almost anticipate how someone's going to spin your stuff. And so that's why these Facebook Lives are so long, because you have to address every single perspective. And it's like doing a mind mapping where you have a main point in the center, and then you have all these little lines that then have their little circles of everything, how a person can characterize one main point and figure out what they're thinking about it, figure out their perspective, their culture, their belief system around it, their perception, how they characterize stuff. It's like standing in the shoes of people in the world. And many people don't do that. And so that's why it's so important that you guys learn how to write stuff based upon not only your perspective, but then you are also factoring in everyone else's perspective, how they're going to read something, take something, interpret something, and you interpret it and make sure that it's not getting mischaracterized and misinterpreted. So that's why it's good to learn to write and speak from a perspective, your perspective, and then bring in other perspectives, and then also address it, and then learn how to speak in that way, knowing how people are going to take your information, how they're going to spin it, and how they're going to interpret it. And so that takes knowing, or that takes time to understand other perspectives. And so that's essentially what the whole J world is about. It's not just coming from your perspective. It's learning how to come from everybody's perspective and still be biased in your world, but you learn how to articulate why you're biased in this way, and you still have room for other people's, belief system. Then you're not wronging them for it. It's just that you're giving them another option. Like when you have a word that has 5 different contexts, you can develop a 6th context. Just look at, like Trump. It could be a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb, and I don't think he'd be a preposition. But he can be an action word, he can be a description word, he can be a noun, he could be a pronoun. Okay, so you see the evolution of the word Trump. Okay, so then you look at the word pain. Now the word pain is just describing an action or an energy that somebody feels, but it's a pejorative. It has a pejorative context. But it's still a universal description of an energy that people feel that don't like it based upon that it gets in the way of their daily life, or it's something that's uncomfortable that they don't want to deal with because they were conditioned not to deal with. And so pain has a context. And it has probably several different definitions. I haven't looked it up to see how they characterize it in the dictionary. But then now you have to look at that pain has so many perceptions around it that have implied reactions. And so when you're trying to do a monologue about pain, now you have to bring in everyone's implied characterization, how they react to it, what they were told about it, how that, what kind of pain? Someone hitting you, someone doing corporal punishment on you, or you have kinetic activity, kinetic energy in your body that you don't want to deal with, but it's necessary. Why is it necessary? Because of this. I mean, there's so many, what you call, I won't say index, footnotes when it comes to pain. There's so much allegory. Like when you read Dante's Inferno and you're seeing all the footnotes and they're bringing in, Greek mythology, Greek history, they're bringing in all these different texts from so many different subject matters and cultures. And so, you can get lost in the footnotes. And so you have to be able to learn how to even bring in footnotes without you getting lost down the rabbit holes. That takes clarity, mental clarity. That takes understanding again. All the classics, the stories, the allegory, different cultures, different belief systems. And understanding the government, understanding the agencies that work in the government, why they exist. I used to say FDA is a federal death agency, but the FDA is the Food and Drug Administration. And anything food and drug is based upon how you want to, is based upon your intention. There's food to feed you, but food can be a drug and drugs could be a food. And those both are interchangeable. So everything is based upon how you're using the food and drug. And so if the FDA approves of something, it means that it's basically relatively safe. Then how you characterize the energy after eating the food and the drug is now left up to all the politics, all the religions, and all the scientific dogmas. And then you're going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and people get lost in the footnotes. They get lost in the rabbit holes. So then You have to learn how to characterize even the government agencies correctly, because if you don't characterize them correctly, then you have chaos. Because if the FDA says that salt is fine, it's FDA approved. If water said that FDA approved, if sugar and genetically modified is FDA approved, then you know it's safe to eat because you wouldn't be eating Windex, right? That's not FDA approved for consumption. So there's got to be some kind of order, or else people are in chaos and they're doing stupid shit. And so then now you have to characterize, what is it about that FDA approved drug or food? How does it affect you? Why does it affect you that way? Well, because of deficiencies. But how people characterize, see, this is the thing. Then the conspiracy world, the health and wellness world, all the cures world, characterize anything that's FDA approved, whether it's a drug or food, as poison, which is directly in conflict and directly diametrically opposed to an FDA approval. If it's not FDA approved and it's not made for consumption, then it's fucking poison. But again, we have people who mischaracterize food and drugs. Again, it's all about what your intention is with the food and drug. And so then you have to understand the footnotes and understand the fears and understand the misconceptions and understand all the things out there that are so prevalent that turned into an activist stance. And go look at your Facebook. Look at even what you are afraid of. And so then you have the FDA, then you have the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. They're the ones that says, okay, the environment is relatively safe for you to live in. And if there's train derailments or gas leaks or any kind of chemical leaks, and they're like, okay, well, maybe it's time to take shelter, close your windows, drink bottled water, don't drink out of the tap water. When they tell you that, that means obviously there's something that is outside the lines of tolerance and that you should be drinking bottled water and boil your water and or close your windows because the fumes, or shelter in place or get out of town. And so even the EPA has a certain tolerance level that is fine for the general population. But no, we have people out there like, oh no, the EPA is wrong. They're trying to kill us. They're doing this. They're doing that. Chemtrails, mercury, barium, all this other shit. And so they even disregard the EPA's judgment on what is relatively safe and what is not. Because again, they have to go by the general population. Parts per million. And if you have an issue, regardless, if you have issues with tolerance to your food, your water, your air, you're not going to accept the EPA's assertion of what is safe and what is not. You will then use your own situation, your own biochemistry as a baseline. And that's everybody out there. They're like, oh yeah, you should have my energy. You should have my biochemistry. You should have my way of looking at stuff. My way is the only way. And so then everyone looks at their own world as the baseline to work from. And then they tell everyone else, oh, it's poison. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Be afraid of this. They're poisoning us. They're doing this. And you're seeing that. When people are reading, they're reading ingredients. And it says bioengineered food, like in the mayonnaise. And then you see people going like, oh, look, they're poisoning us. Oh my God, look, they're poisoning us. You know, you sound like a bunch of hens. Cackling hens. Oh, look, they're poisoning. Oh, look, she's poisoning you. She's harming you. He's harming you. They're harming you. They're poisoning us. So, yeah. And so then what are you listening to? You're listening to their deficiencies. When somebody says the FDA, the EPA, the USDA is poisoning you, the government agencies are poisoning you, now you're dealing with a population of people who are extremely deficient, intolerant, tunneled, and using their own biochemistry and their energy as a baseline to work from, as if they were fucking God, and then they develop little demigods around them. who are now the God's gift of knowing what is safe and what is not to everyone. And then that's caused chaos. And then what? Would we go back to square one? Where then we have all out, well, not all out distinction, but we have so many people who are starving themselves, eating only one or two ingredients. And there is no centralized baseline to work from as far as a government who will determine what the average overall baseline should be. And then everyone has to find a way to assimilate to it. And if you can't assimilate to the baseline that the government is giving you, because the government's not going to destroy everyone, then that's your problem. So there has to be a fulcrum, but you ain't the fulcrum, each individual person. There's got to be a collective intelligence that knows the average baseline out there, and you don't have enough information, layperson, to say that that baseline that they are suggesting is poison. Because if that were the case, then it'd be all out to extinction. Because you know how many people eat mayonnaise with bioengineered ingredients? A lot of people, and they're not fucking dying or dead. But again, the little hens, little cackling hens, will be like, oh, look, they're poisoning us. And so that's the challenge of my world, is how do I speak to all that listening? How do I speak to all that listening? And I'm going to delete that person who said hello, because you're not going to commandeer this. Bye. Ban from stream. All right. And so, that's why you got to realize that there is a necessity for a government, a central baseline. Okay. A central collective effort to say what is relatively safe and what is not. But again, we have these cackling hens out there who are deficient. Yes, they are changing the environment, because they're dealing with people who are so deficient that they're going to cause the chaos. They are the ones who are causing the chaos. Those are who are deficient, who are intolerant, can't handle diversity, are the ones that are causing the chaos, because they don't understand how to deal with pain and suffering. They mischaracterize it, but that's what you were taught. Now things are changing, but it has to happen really slowly. And it has to happen incrementally. It can't be just like, well, drink a gallon of J juice. Though once you drink a gallon of J juice, you'll feel stuff and then you'll be cured. But that's not really what the point is. And people aren't prepared to feel the initial waking up of the demons. So everything has to be a gradual thing. That's why everyone's freaking out around the J world a couple years ago. Because yeah, I could drink like a quart, 3/4 of a gallon, because I was already primed for it. I was ready to deal with the pain. But then eventually you become cured, and then also losing so much weight because you're not hungry and you're not reproducing the cells. You're not evolving. But I was skinny, but then you could kind of get away with that in a slower frequency environment. But in a higher frequency environment, you cannot afford to be so skinny. And so that's why I am advocating, have been advocating, eating all food in the food supply. And yes, the milk, the cream, of which I bought $188 worth of meat, cream, a few vegetables like corn and mushrooms, and cereal. Yeah, I did buy milk, bunch of water, and butter, and cream of mushroom soup, pasta. Okay. And that will last me for a while. I'm sure there's other stuff I forget. $188, like what the hell? But the cream is like half a gallon, and it's $9 for half a gallon of cream. But that's so much life. And I see my body changing. Like, yes, I have bigger mammaries. I got a little tiny belly. Definitely have some thighs. But I have a lot of intelligence. Which is why those in the artist world, or those in the writing world, writing scripts, like that guy Guillermo del Toro, the one that wrote Cabinets and Curiosities and other films in Netflix, he's a big dude. And when you have that much diversity in your body, you can come from so many different perspectives. But again, you have to manage that energy so it doesn't kill you later on. And so there is a way to have weight on your body where it doesn't turn into cardiovascular disease or diabetes or some other diagnosable condition. That you can have weight on your body and be intelligent and have an open system and fluctuate with the environment and not, again, deal with the different diseases that are associated with obesity. And so, again, when you're trying to, how do you explain pain in a Facebook reel that's so short and to the point, is that you have to address every single way a person characterizes food, pain, and then also their size, because not everybody can deal with the pain. If they are like 80 pounds, 90 pounds, and they have so much deficiency in their body, they got to bring in stuff so ever so slightly and gradually build up the fats in their body, the proteins, the muscles, bringing in the collagen, changing the hair color. That is not only a release process, releasing the demons that are causing all of the aging process, but also bringing in the fats and the proteins and the nutrients to rebuild your body and overshadow all the little demons as your body is releasing them. And that means that, yeah, you might have rashes under your armpits, like I do occasionally when the frequencies are so aggressive. Like I know when the frequencies are aggressive is because I have a little tiny thin rash under my armpits and they're a little bit sore. That's the lymph nodes releasing. I don't even shave my armpits anymore because some days when the frequencies are so insane, they are a little sore. I'm not putting a razor to that. And so I'm letting the hair grow out there. Unless like it's a slower frequency day and I'm like thinking, okay, I could take a razor to my armpit. But at this point, I don't really want to, because there's a reason why there's hair there. It's the body's way of releasing. It's a protection. That's how your body is supposed to fluctuate with the environment. But what do people do? They put deodorant. They do antiperspirants. They're always shaving their armpits so that way they can look sexual for people and have and go like this and they can people see, stuff. But nowadays Hollywood is like growing the armpit hair out, but they're not saying, hey, well maybe you should have lymph nodes open up and release those lymphocytes, or else you'll get a heart attack or a stroke. See, that's where heart attacks come from when you think about it, because your lymph nodes under your armpits are supposed to be an escape hatch for all the lymphocytes, all the jetsam and flotsam that's going through all of your arteries and capillaries. And of course, your armpits are next to your heart. And when you are taking antiperspirants and you are actively trying to stop the body from releasing the energy from your armpits, from your different lymph nodes, where does all that shit go? It starts accumulating. And the body has to work harder to push it throughout the body. Because there's no really, you can people try to release through the poop, but remember, they've also closed up their system even down there because they don't want to poop, they don't want to pee, they don't want to have diarrhea, they're taking Imodium, they're taking all these different things, and then when it's convenient, take a laxative. But they haven't trained their lymphatic system to release the demons, so then you have lymphoma, Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's. And that's why there is the aging process. And so if you want to finally come back to life, it's a slow, gradual process of bringing in the intelligence and releasing the ignorance. But again, if you are adverse to pain and you don't really think that you should live indefinitely and you don't think you deserve to live indefinitely and all that stuff, then you'll justify why then that's not going to work for you. And there's a lot of that programming, that brainwashing out there. And of course, attention spans are like this, so that's why I get more looks at my Facebook reel, which I noticed right off the bat. I'm over 100 views on that last one because it was short. I get it. I understand the concept. They have that even on YouTube. It says like you'll get a lot more views if you don't have hour long. But this is how I have to bring out every single argument around a subject matter. That's the only way you can look at the world in a panoramic point of view, and you're not coming so tunneled, is if you put in the time. If you don't put in the time, then it's, again, you'll be looking at something from 1 or 2 points of view, and that's it. That's the activist world. That's the fear world. That's politics, religion, and science. No one is willing to take the time to understand all the arguments, which is why you get the intolerance and the cancer, the disease, and the chronic illness, and the autoimmune disorders. And so, those that can handle their frequencies, we will have the bodies, the substance, the bustiness, the bellies to survive all this, and also contribute to the future of the human race. And we don't have to drop eggs. So then how are you going to take your proteins to go and inseminate somebody else or in strength? Well, because I'm releasing my demons. When I cough, sneeze, and blow my nose, when I poop, I know it goes into a sewer system. No one's taking my proteins. But I'm around people. They take on my information and they get cancer, disease, and chronic illness because my information is now being uploaded into them. But I'm one of a collective of proteins a person breathes in if they're around me. But if they have cancer, disease, and chronic illness, they're going to have biopsies. They're going to have people taking their proteins. People go to the medical system all the time and they get these things so they're getting a compilation of that person's environment. And if I've been in that presence of that somebody, then they will have that as part of the compilation. We'll be able to isolate and say this is Jillian's cell. No, but it's part of a strengthening process. And then all you got to do is feed it the milk, a little bit of the salt and water and other nutrients. And now you have a strong cell or an egg or sperm or whatever. And then you can freeze them and do cryogenics. There are so many things in biotech that are being done that is just so beyond people's comprehension. But that's the thing, is that, if we don't have to drop eggs to contribute to the DNA of the future children are going to be stronger. Because when you drop an egg, where's that egg coming from? Is that egg coming from someone who has been so compromised in body, mind, and spirit? What kind of egg are you now using? Versus you get an egg from a very strong prototype, and then you innovate it, CRISPR gene edit it with so many different gifts, curses and spells, and then it goes into some kind of, machine that is like a womb. You're not going to need men and women as a binary type of thing. You'll have the machines that will be like a uterus and develop children. I know people are like, oh, that's so crazy. That's like so satanic. But that's like developing lab created meat. You can do that out there outside in nature, right? But nature and the lab are not that different. Just you have grass and trees and butterflies, or you have a sterile environment, but they're all playing with the same proteins, the same elements. So it really isn't that different, but you've been told that organic in nature with no extra DNA added to it is so much better. But is it? Do you see people out there that haven't evolved, that have not even looked at another thought process or even actively taken on new information or taken a class? Maybe they graduate high school, but that's as far as they go. Then they go into whatever career field and they have absolutely no exposure to new information. And so then you look at the college system and education and all that relative to, I guess, the intention as like taking a VACCINE. And you're getting a shot of evolution, a shot of new information. Now, what you do with that information obviously is all left up to intention. And so you can go to college and just be homogenized and just spout the party line, or you go to college and you evolve the information. They're giving you a baseline to work from. Now you get to evolve it. That's why some people don't graduate college. That they go to college just to get the baseline stuff, and then they go and innovate, just like Bill Gates and other people who don't graduate from the universities they went to. They went there to universities, but they don't graduate because they're not trying to be a parrot for the system. They just took what they needed and they evolved it and did something with it. But you have two choices: evolve the information given to you, or just be a straight regurgitator. And so that's right now the split in our society are those who innovate and they're getting attacked for it, and then those who regurgitate that are attacking the innovators, and vice versa. Innovators attacking regurgitators, we're tired of dealing with being attacked by people. So part of me wanted to develop a Facebook reel where I'm like this to everyone that right now is stalking me from my old world. Now you can see in your Facebook, the people you may know, suggested friends, those are the people that are looking at your Facebook, but they're not your friends, they're not friend requesting you, they're just stalking your shit. But when you leave it open, that's the whole point, which is fine. But part of me was just like, all you freaking regurgitators that fucking slammed me for so many years, said I was this, I was that. That's what I wanted to say to all of them. But that's not really a nice thing, but that's what I wanted to do. Because now I know how to say things differently. I know how to even articulate things that I've been trying to say for the last 7, 8, 10 years. But I had to develop that process, and it took time. And so, science has extremely strong prototypes saved in the cryogenic laboratories. And all they need is just the DNA from those who are extremely strong once they thin the herd. And that's happening. They're thinning the herd, especially with all the cannabis all over the world. Because cannabis develops demons. The demons need to be fed. You're feeding the demons, but you're not feeding yourself. And that's why then people turn out to be Rick Simpson. So maybe he won't die from cancer. He'll just die from old age. But isn't that kind of the same thing? Because cancer is an implied reaction that you go and scoop it out, surgically take it out, or do oncology. But when you say, hey, an evolution, a birth of you that you need to feed, that you need to foster, you need to release whatever old world, that's not implying you go and destroy it with oncology or cryotherapy or herbs or extracts. But when you use the word cancer, there is an implication of a specific reaction of taking away that cancer using oncology, not ontology. And so, right now at this point, the system is thinning the herd through cannabis, through oncology, through their perceptions of pain, demonizing the innovators. But that was all by design. Because those who finally break through and realize the agenda that's going on, they won't listen to all the bullshit, all the hens cackling and saying that salt is poison, sugar is poison, bioengineering is poison. Those who actually can see the agenda for what it is, they won't listen to all that bullshit. But those who don't have a clue on how this shit's working, they'll just go and believe the nearest thing. And be afraid of pain, be afraid of release, be afraid of everything. Won't understand poop, whatever. And so, I feel like a fertility goddess because I feel like, wow, I have a lot of life to me, a lot of intelligence. Yes, I don't need to look like a heroin addict, which is right now what is, thank you, Audrey, for that description. Thank you, Audrey. I don't promote heroin addict looking bodies that also are used for sex. Now what I'm promoting, when you think about it, now I'm promoting intelligence, diversity, tolerance, longevity. And that was not prevalent in California. California was all about politics, looking sexy, looking like heroin addicts, becoming a Stepford wife, looking like an influencer who is ready to procreate at a drop of a dime. That was mostly California. I had to get the fuck away from California. Because that's what it mostly was cannabis and engineering of eventual destruction once they pulled out the innovation of those who are going through intellectual energy conversions on such a level that then would eventually bring them to drop children, and those children will be used as experiments. And then eventually the environment will do what it needs to do to thin the herd. And so that's so many reasons why I left California, because people in my world did not fucking understand. And they looked down upon me and they just, oh, Jillian's out of control. Jillian's this, Jillian's that. Jillian's stupid. Oh yeah, Oh yeah, and now when I look at people that are stalking my page from California, from different families that I belong to or whatever, I want to go like this to all of them. But I'm going to leave it alone. But that's really what, because I let me tell you, it's so difficult when you are dealing with something and no one understands and they don't care because they have the going diagnosable condition. They can go and say, oh yeah, I have this, I have that. Or, oh, you have PMS. I mean, part of me is like still thinking about that, about how people viewed me back then. Oh, and now look, I figured out the key to longevity and that you had to go through the evolution. And yeah, I had to call in fucking sick. Yeah, I had to change jobs. Not everyone can be under the influence of drugs and have surgeries and have all that shit and play that game. No, or do all the discipline running and exercise. That I had to go through my journey. And I'm sorry you didn't like my journey. Actually, I'm not fucking sorry. Because I had to go through it. And so when you are attacking someone or looking down upon somebody, that shows how intolerant you are, and it's going to bite you in the ass. So I learned through the J world that yeah, everyone has their journey and you understand where it comes from. You don't look down upon them, but you find a way to figure out what's good for you, why they're doing what they're doing, and still embrace the diversity. But that takes maturity, of which, yeah, people in my world back then didn't have the maturity because they thought they were better than me. Well, fuck everyone who thinks they're better than somebody else. Literally, fuck everyone who thinks they're better than somebody else. We have to deal with the diversity in our society and figure out where people are coming from and find a way to understand. But we weren't taught this. This had to come from a divergent. And then that divergent had to learn how to explain shit. And it was fucking hell. The last 7 years was fucking hell, but it's getting easier and it's getting better. And so I do feel strong. I feel the frequency changes, but they don't affect me like they used to. Yeah, I feel the heat, but it's not hurting me. And I'm extremely energetic and clear-headed and intelligent, and sky's the fucking limit. And yeah, my lymph nodes are open. And so that fertility goddess that I showed you was not quite the example of like exactly what I look like. I definitely have the mammaries like I didn't have before. And so I notice my body is changing to the environment. And it's changing for the better. And I'm becoming stronger. And so that sculpture that I showed you, similar sculptures first discovered in the 19th and early 20th centuries, are traditionally referred to in archaeology as Venus figurines due to the widely held belief that depictions of nude women with exaggerated sexual features represented an early fertility deity, perhaps a mother goddess. The reference to Venus is metaphorical since the figurines predate the mythological figure of Venus by many thousands of years. Some scholars reject the terminology instead of referring to the statue as the woman of or woman from Willendorf. Okay? And so, yeah, I'm sure that early humans were bigger. They were fertile. They were dropping kids left and right, probably a lot of intelligence. Excuse me. And you had to have weight for intelligence. You weren't just made to be someone's, slave and sex slave and or kitchen slave. That there was some intelligence probably in the past. But now people don't really appreciate intelligence. They appreciate, oh, she's got a six-pack. Oh, she's got nice boobs. Oh, she's got nice hair. Oh, look, she has nice eyelashes, nice cheekbones. Just look at Hollywood. Look at all the different stars that underwent plastic surgery. And now, as they are older and deteriorating, look what happens when you get plastic surgery. The body puffs up. They start becoming swollen. And so, yeah, humans have been used as experiments. And so you're going to see so many different types of people out there. And yeah, they're going to be either under the influence, under so many surgeries, CRISPR gene edited, and made to look gorgeous or look diverse. Some people will put horns on their head. Other people will want to have a tail or whatever it is to look like mythological creatures. I mean, there's going to be so much that either they're going to be developed in a lab that will be, in a zoo or something, but I don't think that's really ethical, because every single one of these animals that are mixed with humans that do get become conscious of itself, that's torture. Because even having animals that aren't allowed to really leave so much, I mean, I won't say it's torture, but it depends on how much of their self they are aware of. Or are they just strictly reacting to their environment and kowtowing to their master? But when we start splicing and dicing human consciousness with animals, and then they look like, holy shit, to have them locked up in a museum or in some laboratory or in a zoo would be unethical, immoral, amoral, whatever. But you're going to see people doing things like putting in uteruses or horns or piercing all of their body parts and doing whatever. And they don't expect to live very long or live, past a certain point. So yeah, they'll do all the surgeries, they'll do all the disfigurements, the tattoos, and they'll look cute. They'll do all the plastic surgery and all the cosmetic surgery, and they'll look cute for a certain amount of time, and they'll influence and sell you all the products in the world, and people like ooh and ah and all that. And then later on they pass away. That's going to be a lot of our society. And once you know this, and you're not too far gone, and you haven't participated too much in that disfiguring of the body in so many different manners, you have a chance to redirect. It won't be as painful. But some are so far gone that they have no chance to redirect, because they would have to revisit every single hole they ever punched in their body using the surgical system, or the piercing systems, or the tattoo systems. Okay? So that's already going on. I can't wait to see Jurassic Park when that happens. I literally can't wait to see. That'd be so awesome to see giant animals when that happens. I can't wait. But again, we have to thin the herd before that happens, because when you have animals such as that, they're so large, we'll have so many ignorant humans who'll be so scared they'll go and kill it, like right off the bat. Just imagine someone down the street walking with a dress on, a guy with a dress on. Some guys will not, that are like transgender or trans whatever, will not walk like that in certain places because of the ignorance that people want to go and destroy something that looks different. So imagine a giant monster, they'll go and destroy it. They won't appreciate it. But then we have to figure out, is that monster going to attack? And so that's why things have to be done incrementally as far as condition the population to accept diversity, and then also make sure that whatever we're developing isn't going to be so predatory that will risk the extinction of the human race. Okay, so, there's so many things on the horizon, but we have to, again, get everyone up to a certain level. And right now we have a lot of ignorant people who will destroy things out of ignorance. And it's already happening on the internet. You already see it, people trying to destroy those with new information or a new truth. And so I say, don't get mad at someone who gives you another choice. Get mad at those who said their way is the only way. Their choices are the only choices. Everything is backwards, which is why I had that Facebook reel about slavery. When you think that your way is the only way and this belief system is the only belief system, and you're supposed to die someday, and here, take all this oncology and all these herbs and extracts so you can make your life leaving the world easier. That's a slavery. That's being only given one choice. But again, people don't look at it that way. They feel like, oh, I have all these choices. I could have Pepsi or Coke. I could have, Miller Lite or Bud Light. Okay, it's all the same shit, just different names attached to it. But to them, to people, that is choice. So they're still within a slavery system, but they're given manufactured choices. Oh yeah, Democrat, Republican. It's all the same shit, just spun a little bit differently. But can you tell that to someone who thinks that that's freedom, is that they can pick between Miller Lite and fucking Bud Light? No, because they think that's the difference. They think, oh gosh, that's choice, that's freedom. When you can choose Miller over Bud, because Bud just sold out to all the rainbows. That's the slavery system, when you are given the choices to choose from. That you aren't allowed to develop your own choice or think outside the box. They're giving you the choices of Biden or Trump. And then you have those that are trying to come up grassroots, but you're still regurgitating the same shit. That was the independent movement, which is really a contrived thing that gives you a third choice. But they were still a compilation of the Democrats and Republicans. And it was all about consensus. Well, what are you consenting to? What is this consensus based upon what? Oh, the same shit the Democrats and Republicans were trying to consent to. So again, it's another spun giving you a choice, make you think that it's something different. When it's all the same shit, it's still, like Pepsi is still Coke with a few different, maybe a little bit more sugar, maybe a little bit sweeter. But Pepsi and Coke are not that different. But maybe the taste is, and the patents and the ingredients. And then you get like the generic Coke, right? RC Cola. And I was like, oh yeah, I get a choice. It's all the same shit, guys. But again, you don't tell some of that in the slavery system when they're saying, oh yeah, Miller versus Light or Miller versus Bud Light. All right. So don't get mad at someone who gives you another choice. Get mad at those who said their way is the only way. Their choices are the only choices. Everything is backwards. And so I'm like, when someone, it's like setting people free, but if they don't think that they're enslaved, then they won't look at what you're saying as a liberation, because they don't see it that way. They don't even think they're fucking enslaved. So so my assumption that I'm liberating people with this new information is my assumption, because other people will not look at their life as slavery. But how else are you supposed to then get your point across? You don't have to die, but here's the thing. The reason why I'm making that assumption and I'm liberating you from that jail of a reality that you're supposed to die someday is because people say they hold life dearly. They are pro-life. They don't believe they should die. They don't want to die today. They don't want to die tomorrow. They don't even want to die next week. But they're okay with dying. They're okay with dying someday. But what is someday? That is so abstract. Someday could be tomorrow. Someday could be next week. And so the reason why I give people another option to work from is because they've been jailed in the reality that they had to die someday. That maybe you didn't have to die someday. And maybe if I get you before you get completely traumatized by the medical system, that maybe you can come back from the death trajectory that you're on. But some people are too far gone. And so then I'm speaking to those that are not that far gone. And so during this life, right, the Catholicism, Buddhism, even Jewish mysticism, it's all about, do good works. Karma, do good works. Pay it forward. The more you give to somebody, the more you're going to get back. The more you give to this cryptocurrency, at some point you're going to have a windfall. And you're going to get rich. You're going to get back even more so. That's the religions out there of taking people's resources and making you seem like you're a saint. Worshipping people who give so much to their friends or family, to strangers, the good Samaritans out there. The worship of sainthood. And so karma doesn't mean what you think. And so I saw someone out there on Facebook who was mentioning karma. And she was like, I've done so much good stuff. I can't wait to get it all back. And I'm like, what? Let me tell you, if I were to go outside and give money to all of my neighbors, let's say I gave them all $100. Let's say I had $1,000. I want to go give to the world, right? So I went to every single one of my neighbors and gave them $100. And they're like, wow, that's so awesome. Then you would see them come creeping around and be like, hey, do you happen to have another $100? Or, hey, let me go do this for you. Let me go do that for you. And they start attaching themselves to you. Now you just invited so many different people and demons into your world simply because you wanted to be a saint by giving everybody money around you. You don't know what the hell you're inviting in when you're trying to give away everything so you can become a saint and be like, oh, look, I'm so generous. That's the deception. That's the dangers of falling into sainthood, falling into karma, falling into just the Mother Teresa shit. Karma doesn't mean what you think. Karma is basically you expecting a return on your investment even when you had no permission to invest in somebody else. And so when you're giving money to someone, you're capitalizing on their desperation of, wow, I get free money. But then what happens is, even though you're like, okay, they're going to come back and return that investment. Maybe you'll get like someone mowing your lawn or you get somebody doing stuff for you. Then somebody comes in who has real nefarious intentions and they worm their way in. Because you were so free and giving everything out there, they go and destroy you. And that's what happened with, what's her name? I forget her name. Oh, shit. David. The one, oh my gosh. Kidnapped girl. David. Oh, Elizabeth Smart. So Elizabeth Smart, her dad was so generous. He wanted to help employ somebody who is homeless or desperate or whatever, an indigent. He was being so generous. His religion's about being so generous. So he has like two kids, 2 girls. And he hired somebody off the street who was like, oh, I need this job. And he was like, oh, he took pity on that person. He just invited in a demon into his world because he was being a good dude. And that demon traumatized, capitalized on his access to his family. And so what happens when you're doing good works and inviting and being good to everybody, giving away your time, hiring strangers off the street, you don't know no idea who they are, what they're about. You're inviting in demons that have access to the vulnerable people in your world. That's all the sainthood shit. And then you have something that happened like Elizabeth Smart, where she was kidnapped because her dad let in somebody into his world because he wanted to be a good dad or a good person. He didn't understand the dangers of the world that he was living in. Because he was being so generous. So karma is basically you expected a return on your investment even when you had no permission to invest in somebody else. Because they weren't prepared to pay you back. They have no idea they had to pay you back, or the price was so high you would destroy them with your expectation. So it happens on both ends. You can invite demons into your world and they find ways to chip away at your soul, or you're doing it to gain control over someone. When you're freely investing in people and you're giving gifts and you're giving adulation and adoration, there's something that you want from them. It's not benevolent when people are just giving you stuff freely. It's not free. Nothing is for free in life. There is a price to pay for that. You got to be very careful accepting and responding to those types of excessive things, okay? And so when you give away your energy, it's yours to give, but no expectation you get it back. If you expect to get everything back, you'll get everything back, and it may not be what you expect. And that's again the Elizabeth Smart case. I don't believe in karma because you will invite demons into your world. That's religion. That's Buddhism and spirituality. That's also the stock market. That's the cryptocurrency. That's gambling. That's assuming that the more you play and pay, the more you'll get back. Like when you're trying to help people. I mean, I understand if there's 2 guys and they're trying to help a girl fix her tire. Well, she's probably going like, holy shit. And so the guys don't even understand that they're trying to play savior to someone. The girls are like, holy shit, are these guys going to kidnap me? And that's why women have to be very careful traveling alone and make sure they have spare tires and they have a towing service. Because because good Samaritans are out there, yes, not everyone's going to attack you, but you don't know this. You don't want to leave yourself open like that. And so That's why self-sufficiency is an art to learn so you don't become a victim inadvertently. Okay? You don't want to depend upon the world out there or the kindness of strangers, because they're not always kind. So that's also, I gotta pee. That's also the stock market, cryptocurrency. All right, so that's also the stock market. That's also cryptocurrency. That's gambling. That's assuming that the more you play and pay, the more you'll get back. That's a black hole. There's no guarantee. Even if you figure out the system and you win money, then your whole life is about gambling in areas that you don't even know within that system. And just because you won big one place doesn't mean you'll win big over other places and you can lose your ass over somewhere else. Okay, so just because you won here, you can lose your ass over there. Karma is about gambling. And I don't gamble. And expecting a whole lot of return on your investment, another religion. And so when you invest in yourself, you know what you can afford. And you know what you can give and you know what you can take. When you invest in other people, places, and things and ideas, you have no control over that system. And when someone is investing so much into you, then they have control over you. That's what you have to learn, that sometimes free money is never free. When someone invests in you so much, there is so much. Believe me, I learned that even in the J world. People were investing in me, but there was a price to pay for the investment. There was a huge price to pay that I'm like, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. I don't have I don't have the endless amount of, energy, but I also don't want someone rearranging the J world and stopping the evolution. Because when someone invests in you, they think they have a stake, yes, and they have say. That was done with. I have to have my own autonomy. It's like when you have a board of directors, right? You have a CEO and a board of directors, that CEO is very much having to meet the board of directors' expectations, as well as all the stockholders. When you are your own entity and you have your own gig going on, and you don't have a board of directors and you're not a CEO with that type of thing, you have freedom. You're not trying to cater to somebody else's expectations. You have freedom to evolve. And those are private labels, like Ryan Upchurch has his own private label. He's not subjecting himself to Nashville. He's on his own, doing his own thing. Watch Ryan Upchurch. He's a great example of someone who has autonomy and had to deal with the freaking vultures. Okay? And so invest in yourself. But if you are eliciting board of directors they're babysitting your kids, giving you money for this, giving you money for that, giving you everything for free, it's not free. Oh, let me tell you, it's not for free. There is a huge price to pay when you have a slew of people who are basically like a board of directors. And so when you invest with other people and other things, you have no control over that system. So it works both ways. You invest into a cryptocurrency, you have no control over that cryptocurrency. Even if you go and get everybody in your world to go and buy it and maybe push up the stock price a little bit, there's people out there that are working against you and selling it out from under you. So while you're busy working and getting everyone to buy your fucking crypto and buy your product, somebody else, though, they're undermining the fuck out of you and making money off of your hard work. See, that's the thing. If you have no control over the whole system, you'll get fucked. And that's what's wrong with the stock market and people who are all about making money and getting rich quick, is that they don't see the other side. They're so blinded by all the get rich quick shit. So that's called worship. When you give away your body, your mind, and your spirit to the public, you better control what you get back, because you could get back demons. And yeah, When I put myself out there, I get back great stuff, right? Great responses. And I also get shitty responses. And so I have to learn how to control what I get back. And that's why I don't do private message. People occasionally will send me, Facebook reels, and I'm like, don't private message me. I'm not getting influenced by that energy. I already look at your Facebook and see what you put out there. I don't want that energy. I don't say that, but that's why I don't do Facebook private messages too often, if at all, because people's energy influences you. If I choose to interact with your energy, knowing what you put on Facebook, that's my choice. But I don't want people going in and saying, here, watch this, here, watch that. Because I'm like, then you get caught up and get mired into somebody's conversation and their perception, and then they try to convert you. Even though they don't mean to. They're like, I just want to give you an awareness. I want to show you this. Believe me, if I want what's in your world, I would be in your world. We would be working together and we would do whatever. I don't. So don't PM me, okay? That stuff. So that's why, when I put myself out there, I control what I get back. And that's also not responding to all the stalking, abusive emails from those. I've stopped doing that. But I was addicted to it because it was bringing up the juices. But I don't need that anymore. I don't need their help anymore to bring up the juices. The environment is now doing it for me. All right. So when you give away your body, your mind, and your spirit to the public, you better control what you get back, because you could get back some demons. That's why those who think they can afford to give away their energy to the world, look at them. They can barely afford to keep their own energy. They have so much less. They can afford to keep the energy they have, so much less give it away. Much less give it away to other people, to everyone. So, when you give away your energy to everyone, thinking that that's, being a good person, they can't afford it. Because look, they barely can handle the energy they have right now. Think they can handle being an influencer where they're giving away their energy every single day and people are just taking from them all their energy and causing them to become this puppet? That's the influencing world. The millennials are saying that in the future, the millennials are going to get tired of being influencers because it's so exhausting. Because they're getting that great return. They're getting the views, the social capital. They're getting maybe even the Patreon accounts. And so now they're a slave to their audience. They're a slave to the money, to the power of social capital. And they're exhausted. What is it? Lobsters don't die from old age. They die from exhaustion. So look at all the little puppets out there on Facebook and YouTube. And they are a slave to that system. Because once they see the windfall, it's like watching King Midas. Turns everything into gold, you can't eat it, and then they get sucked dry. That's human sacrifice. That's called human sacrifice. And so I won't be sacrificed by my audience. I won't be sacrificed by anyone around me. And I won't sacrifice anybody. But again, when you have a huge following that gives you so much money and attention and adoration and love and all this other shit, then you become the human sacrifice. And that's how you can depopulate people, by giving them everything they could possibly want. The money, the fame, the power, the influence, and they get drunk with power. Just look at all the different influencers out there. It's an interesting phenomenon to watch. So that's why I'm kind of glad that I'm not super popular. I'm actually promoting something that most people will not be able to handle, but only a very few. And so I won't get caught up getting drunk with power like that, to where it jades my perspective. No, I'm biding my time, keeping my resources to myself, staying alive. Because again, when you're given everything, like a spoiled child, no boundaries, and you'll get sacrificed by those who have a lot more power and they know how to manipulate. So, yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. Just so watch the people in your world. Look at all the different influencers out there who are drunk with power, who have a huge following, and they are trapped in that. They can't get out of that. They couldn't get out of it, even if they tried, because that's their life force. That's like having so many arms of a hydra. You lose an arm, you feel like, you're getting weaker. So they have to keep all those different arms alive because they couldn't handle any kind of change. Because if they were to change and go completely opposite of what they were promoting that caused them to have all this money, power, and fame, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. There's nowhere to go. There probably is, but they don't have what it takes to deal with starting over again. So they're stuck. Don't become stuck, J-World. Don't let the trappings of wealth and fame and fortune and stagnancy destroy you. Have the ability to evolve and change and know how to live on absolutely almost nothing so you're not trapped in that kind of lifestyle. Because that is, you can't survive that. You'll enjoy it on the way out, and a lot of people do. Look at those that make, 300, 400,000 a year. And yeah, they're jetting off, doing their things, having their friends and family and parties and children. Good for them. They are the backbone of our society. But they are the temporary people. But we need those who evolve. That could then be the transition to the next change. And that's some people in the J world. Not everybody, but that's some people. All right. Bye.